Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Sorry for the late start tonight. Had a few things I had to take care of. I wanted to get some graphics up here for the start of all this. It's March 12th, 2018, 6:20 Eastern Time, and we've got a ton of stuff going on, so I'm going to get right to it. First off, I want to go through some of the watches and the warnings and advisories that are up right now, and I've kind of extended it a little bit to show you what's going on in Southeastern New England. And I'm also waiting for an answer to this question, and that is, we have blizzard warnings up north and northeast of Boston to the border. We have blizzard warnings up south of Boston down into and including Cape Cod and Nantucket. We do not have a blizzard warning up for Boston, which lies in between these two areas, and I'm trying to find out what the reasoning is behind that. I have a theory, but it's pretty simple. Over the last couple of years, there have been a couple of storms where blizzard warnings didn't exactly work out for some areas. And perhaps because Boston is a metro area, much like New York City is, although New York City is larger, but I love Boston. Don't get me wrong, I actually love Boston a lot. It's a city and a small town at the same time, and it's awesome. But I think what's happened is they're just kind of gung-shy. Unless these things exactly hit criteria, they're not going to put up the blizzard warning. But nonetheless, could there be blizzard-like conditions in Boston on Tuesday? Absolutely. Winter storm warnings extend for just about all of New England down to the Connecticut-New York state line. It includes Suffolk County on Long Island, does not include Nassau, the Hudson Valley, northern New Jersey from coastal Ocean County all the way up northward of 195, all under a winter weather advisory, as is northeastern Pennsylvania, on up through the Catskills and just west of the Catskills, and New York City is included in this. Now, with respect to what snow amounts are going to occur, I'm going to first start off with the Weather Service's viewpoint here, and we'll bring that up front and center. And this is the reason for the blizzard warning, not only just the heavy snow, but they're going to get into that tight pressure gradient and probably see some gusts of 50 miles an hour or more. But basically, the eastern half of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, all in a zone of 12 to 18 inches, including Block Island, and we've got 18 to 24 for parts of southeastern Massachusetts. So the blizzard conditions certainly going to occur here. By the way, I'm my mistake. Martha's Vineyard under the blizzard warning. Nantucket is the island further out, and I do not believe that they were part of that. Let me just double check on Nantucket, and it looks like they may not be part of that the way I'm reading the map. Now, where we've shown you Boston, let's go to Cash 82. Thanks for hitting Super Chat, by the way. Let's go to New York City, and we'll take a look at what they're doing. Whoops, that's Albany. I'm going to have to put the right codes in. Doing a lot of this on the fly, folks. It's a little, please pardon me for the slowness and the interruptions. So you can see the back edge of 8 to 12, southeastern Connecticut, eastern Long Island. Then we get into 6 to 8, back to about New Haven, 4 to 6, back to Bridgeport and White Plains, Long Island, 6 to 8, back to Islip, 4 to 6 from Farmingdale to the city line, the Nassau-Queens line, 3 to 4 in and around the city, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 in parts of northwestern New Jersey. These are the Weather Service numbers again. We will look at Mount Holly, who takes care of, covers southern New Jersey, and you can see the amounts tail off quite a bit as you go south and west. 1 to 2 in eastern Pennsylvania, 3 to 4 up in the northeast, 2 to 3 across northwest New Jersey, down into coast to Monmouth and coastal Ocean County, and then lesser amounts as you go to the south and west. It's another tricky forecast, I think, for western and southern New Jersey here because of what's happening. So let me now I want to bring up the northeast radar, because one of the things that's a little bit bothersome to me in all of this is the fact that a lot of the models have not really done very well with the development of precipitation along the New Jersey and on points southward, and even in the areas that are up in northeastern PA, we're seeing these radar echoes. But the radar looks fairly impressive here from southern New Jersey down into Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. It's snow in the western areas of this these radar echoes here into the mountains from central and into western North Carolina with some pretty hefty precip. You know, the radar seems a bit more impressive to me relative to what the models have been showing. So I'm going to be really cautious in watching this closely. One of the clues sometimes is to make, a lot of times is make sure that it's doing precipitation where models say that it's supposed to be doing, and if not, you are. That's a warning sign that something's wrong somewhere. And one of the things that I'm bothered by all of this in terms of the forecast overnight and into tomorrow is the fact that we've got a low center, and I'll bring up the surface map with the enhanced satellite behind it. And here it is. So here's your low. The Great Lakes energy is swinging southeastward, and here's your coastal low as plotted by the Weather Service. This was at 3:30 this afternoon. So we've got a surface low already developing southeast of the North Carolina coast, and one of the problems that the models have with this is that, much like we had in the last couple of cases, multiple low centers. Which one is going to be is the right one? And I'm not so sure. Models may have this correct or not. Is there one low center, or are there multiple centers? And I'll show you the example of this in just a second. But you can see the very impressive enhanced satellite view here, getting that comma signature again. This is going to be the third nor'easter in 10 days. But I think of all the nor'easters in terms of impact, at least for my area, this is going to be the one that has the smallest impact. It will have some impact, but it should have the smallest impact of all the nor'easters that we've seen so far. Here's the visible satellite loop this evening, and it's going to fade away now as we get closer to sunset, of course. But very impressive clouds. See look at these high cloud tops blowing up northeast of the North Carolina coast. So there's convection here that's blowing up out in the ocean in response to that developing low, and you're getting all this moisture and cloud cover that's getting pushed up northeastward along the coast. So the satellite signature is fairly impressive. But here's the problem when it comes to the forecast going forward. And let me just minimize this and get it out of the way. And we'll go to what I have here is the NAM model for tomorrow at 10 in the morning. And we've got the model showing multiple low centers here. It's a very, very intense system, but it has three lows. It's got one that's way out to the east, southeast actually. That's the one that the model kind of picks on as the dominant center. But there's actually a second low center pinned northwest in this, this very, very broad isobar here. There's another low that's pinned on the northwest side, and from there, north and west, you've got that arc of precip that goes back to the coast, and there's still a third low center that is east of that low that's out at about 40 and about 65. So, which one of these is the model incorrectly picking out the multiple low centers, which is affecting how it's seeing the precipitation field along the coast? I think that's a legitimate question to ask. The darker blues going up to the Boston, all of this would be heavy snow, and at least from the standpoint of the NAM, it encompasses all of southeastern New England with the darker blue band all back to at least Block Island. But I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about this because, if that northwestern low is the more dominant one, or if it's a single low center, that's out at about 39, and that's almost at 40 and 70, and that's the benchmark latitude, longitude that storms that have impacted the New York City, Long Island, southern New England area in a really strong way. particularly southwestern New England, they like to go to 40 and 70. So I'm going to be watching this closely during the overnight period because if it winds up that we have a more dominant center to the west, it could change the whole profile of the precipitation field. So let me just take you through a couple of the short-term models tonight. And there we go. Bring this up to the top. I got a lot of Brady Bunch boxes opened up here, folks. We'll start with, I'm going to try to start with the, we'll bring up, oddly enough, it's the GFS tonight that is closest to the coast with this, because the GFS only has one, basically has one low center rather than this idea of multiple low centers. I'll shrink this a little bit so we can get the whole thing in the screen here. There it is. And, your date and times along the top. Remember, we are on Greenwich Mean Time, so this is at 8 p.m. tonight. Now we have a 4-hour difference since we went to daylight saving time. So there's the low. Look how far east it is of the North Carolina coast. And normally storms that are that far east have a minimal impact for New Jersey, Long Island, southeastern New York, and the Hudson Valley. But, that low gets up. You see how the GFS has its main focus on this low center here, which is roughly at about 39.5 and 70. That would at least argue that the back edge of some of the heavier snow should make it back to about New York City and southwestern New England, at least for a few hours before the low begins to pull away to the east. And actually, that's what the model does. It either pulls the surface low to the east or redevelops it to the east. Models are a little slower in hanging precip back. Heavy snows at this point on the GFS through all of southeastern Massachusetts. It even actually changes it over to rain briefly over Cape Cod, but certainly in Boston, it would be a heavy snowfall here. And it even has it snowing into tomorrow evening as the low stalls out for a little while south of Nova Scotia, south of westernmost Nova Scotia, before it pulls away to the northeast. At the point it does that, it's where the upper air energy is basically phasing and absorbing it, or cutting, moving right over the top, capturing it is what I'm looking for. In terms of the wording. Here's the upper air. One of the problems here, and this is one of the big forecast dilemmas, and has been all along, northern stream jet, southern stream shortwave. And what is preventing this from becoming a major storm for Philadelphia and New York City in particular is that the northern and southern part of the shortwaves, you can see that they're distinctly separate here tomorrow morning. This was the case in the January 4th storm, except in the January 4th storm, that northern energy pulled that southern energy very close to the coast, and models were doing that on and off over the weekend to some degree. And this was a big forecast issue. It seems now that that southern energy gets kicked out to the east far enough before that northern energy comes in and just basically captures it. And you can see it here. It's in its sphere of influence. You've got this upper low in northwestern Pennsylvania. You've got the upper low representing the storm sitting over western areas of Nova Scotia. It doesn't go very far until this whole trough kind of pulls along and then eventually gets ejected out to the east. So that's the reason why it's going to slow down where it slows down, and also the fact that the storm actually wants to go more east before it turns northeast and northward. Basically gets to the same spot, but does it rather than taking the shortest distance, it's taking the more complicated one. Here's the HRRR model, which we're going to be watching closely. You can see how that snow develops and then backs in from the east. The low center moves more east and then northeast. The last frame on this is 11 o'clock on Tuesday, still snowing back to about New York City and northern New Jersey, but the darker blues are over Long Island and Connecticut. One of the things that makes this a problem for forecasting snow totals is that anything that falls overnight from midnight to about 9 a.m. will stick. But after 9 a.m., we're going to have the sun angle going to work, and what will happen is that you'll probably see, even though it would have to snow very hard for the snow to stick between, say, 9 or 10 a.m. In the morning till about 3 or 4 p.m. Afternoon. And that's why whatever in terms of the bulk of the accumulation will probably be put down before that. It'll be a different story for southeastern New England because it'll be snowing there very hard. I imagine it will be snowing at rates of a couple of inches an hour. That will be enough to compensate for whatever sun angle issues we have. This is why I don't like to use the sun angle. You don't use the sun angle tool days before. You wait till you get there and then you figure out what's going to happen. Now, I've been looking more at accumulated precip as opposed to the actual snow maps. I think this would be a better way of a better tool forecast-wise in terms of what's going to happen. Now, here's the HRRR through 10 o'clock, and there'll still be some more snow for Long Island and Connecticut with this. Let's use the back edge of about half an inch. We're going to definitely do 10 to 1. So let's say that's 5 to 6 inches. So I would say the back edge of the half inch of liquid, which is in that first dark blue, central Long Island into Connecticut, that's where your 6-inch line is going to be. And of course, lesser amounts. It does cut off sharply as you go to the west. In southeastern New England, again, this is only through 10 o'clock. There's more to go, but you can see the big liquid amounts in southeastern Massachusetts at this point. We'll go to the NAM. I'm going to take the NAM 3 kilometer. This 3 kilometer should work well with this. Now notice that the NAM 3 kilometer, how tight that western edge is, that it's actually producing some 2-inch liquid amounts across central and eastern Long Island. So I want to be really cautious with this because that's part of my zone. But also notice that just west of there to about New York City doesn't do very much, a couple of tenths. And also, look how much it produces in eastern Massachusetts and into southeastern New Hampshire. We're talking 2 to 3 inches of liquid here. That will easily translate to 1.5 to 2 feet of snow if you want to be conservative. You don't use the whole, the whole liquid amount. The NAM 12 is, by the way, tamer a bit, but not much. The NAM 12 late this afternoon also puts eastern Long Island in a zone of 1 inch to 1.5 inches of liquid. Actually, the back edge of 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch is roughly where I am in central Long Island. So I may actually get a fair amount of snow out of this. But to the east, eastern Long Island, don't be shocked if they wind up with at least 8 to 12, if not perhaps on the order of a foot plus. So, I think this is all, pretty much now a matter of just waiting for the reality to catch up to the radar. I suppose that's the best way to put this. We are now in the short range, so we are just going to wait to watch it unfold. I'm coming back to the board because I don't have a whole lot of time left here, but I'm going to come back to the chat board with you guys and see what some of you have been saying. G White 713, you're saying the dominant low is not near Cape Hatteras. It's south near the South Carolina coast. It is offshore. There's probably multiple low centers here there. I haven't closely analyzed the surface map yet, but I wouldn't be surprised that there's multiple low centers. And this could make the forecast still rather complicated as we move through the overnight and into tomorrow. Always smiling. Let me quickly check on Europe for you because I haven't really been paying much attention to what's going on overseas. I know I've seen there was some talk over the weekend with regards to, an Atlantic storm that I remember talking about. So let's bring up the GFS. Let's also bring up Europe, and I'm going to do this on the fly. And we'll put up. So, what do we got? There is a big storm sitting east of Ireland here, with wind and rain sweeping over the British Isles, starting to get into some snow in parts of northwestern Europe here. Looks like another big high building across the top of Friday into Saturday. Yeah, push of cold air coming in. There's a surprise. Push of cold air coming in from Siberia, maybe bringing some snows there along about Sunday. Saturday night into Sunday for England and parts of England, Ireland, and even into France. Also, I wonder what the upper air looks like. But this is the problem. I've been so focused on what's going on, but you do actually have, I'm just looking here, it looks like a bit of a closed upper high develops a little bit of an east-based block between Scandinavia and Greenland, and that pushes back westward. You see how that upper low moved westward there? Look at that. So it pushes that upper low westward, and that brings in colder air until that high breaks down when we move into the middle part of next week, when we bring up the temperature anomalies. Look at that. Oh, look how below normal it is. I'll just go backwards, and we can watch this new beast from the east come in. There you go. Beast from the east, the big area below average temperatures, cold air mass coming out of Siberia. Doesn't look like what you just, as strong or as dominant, always smiling from what you just went through, but looks like you may have another round of snow to deal with come later in the weekend. We'll be on top of it here, so once we get this storm out of the way, I'll pay a bit more attention to it. HRRR too far offshore. It could be. Again, multiple low centers here makes it very problematic. It's not going to change the forecast too much for southeastern New England, I don't think. It's for the areas between, back to New York City and coastal New Jersey that there's going to be some questions, and I don't think we're going to see thunder snow from this here, David Fuller. Southeastern New England, yes, but here I don't think so. Gabriel M., I can't discuss a Noreaster on the 20th because, honestly, I think I looked at the long range today for about 6 seconds, and that's it. I did see something there, but I don't know. I really didn't get to look deep enough, so it'd be, I couldn't even begin to speculate it. Let's get this storm out of the way, and then I can look ahead with a clear head. Right now, there's just too much going on. Okay, so look, folks, got to go. Coming up, I got some TV to do at the top of the hour. Thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. It's always great you guys join on a regular basis, and I also want to thank all the new arrivals that have joined us in the last month or two and through the winter. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, do so by all means. It's absolutely free. Iron Mind, unusual for 3 low centers. Yeah, it is actually. Most of the time there's usually just one dominant center. To see 3 of them running around is a little bit odd. It's a reflection of kind of the odd nature of the upper atmosphere with the short wave in the southern stream and the northern one coming around and not really phasing. So there's energy that's kind of strewn out, stretched out over a large area. So models sometimes have a difficult time picking out, okay, which one is the dominant center. And we saw that with the last 2 storms as well. And it made a big difference in terms of the outcome, especially when it came to snow with both the first event and the second event. All right, folks, sorry, got to cut it short. Facebook tonight, 9:15, the Joe Cioffi Show, so we'll go over all of this again. 9:15 on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Have a great evening. We will see you later on Facebook and probably tomorrow morning at some point.